What's up, you sexy mother lovers? Today, I'm thinking I'm back with another episode of Gun Builder Reacts. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, I promise I'm not going to be doing that voice the whole video. But yes, my name is Brandon Herrera, and we are back with another episode of Gun Builder Reacts. This time, in honor of John Wick 3, we're going to be going over some of the gunplay in the other John Wick movies. There will be no spoilers for John Wick 3. I have seen it. I did love it. So you guys go ahead and check it out. Still in theaters as of this video. But today, we're going to be going over some of the gunplay in John Wick 1 and 2. Now, real quick, unlike some of the other videos, let me just go ahead and tell you what we're not going to do. We're not going to be covering the gunjitsu, martial arts, whatever stuff they've got going on, knife stuff. We're only going to be talking about some of the gun realism in this movie. I'm not a tactical expert, and contrary to the comments on the last video, I'm actually a gun builder, not a gunsmith. If you bring me a broken gun and it's not an AK, you're shit out of luck. But I'm a gun builder. We build AKs here. So I'm just going to be going over some of the realism in the gunplay and everything like that that I actually kind of know about, and I'm going to leave the martial arts specialties to somebody else. The other thing we're not going to do is just give you a Wikipedia list of all the guns in the movies. If you want to find that easily Googleable, you can find every single firearm that was used in these movies. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to talk about realism and some of the key scenes and whatnot, and just talk about different parts of the movies, and it's going to be really fun for me because I actually really enjoy this franchise. So without further ado, let's get started with John Wick 1. The classic, the one that started it all, John Wick Sr. But first, the AC in this shop is not that good, so before I sweat my balls off, costume change. Now, John Wick 1 was kind of an awesome departure from some of the less than realistic gunplay that had plagued Hollywood for decades before that. That was really kind of the movie, I know at least for me, that kind of started changing the way Hollywood started doing action. We started getting more movies like The Accountant and things like that that actually started taking realistic gunplay into account. Especially when you start looking at like movies from the early 2000s and late 90s, like they just did not straight up give a about realistic gunplay. So John Wick was kind of an amazing departure from that in the way that most of the gunplay there was realistic. In fact, most of you probably already know, John Wick's actor, Keanu Reeves, was actually training with Terran Tactical and doing a lot of actual like three-gun style training and shooting and all sorts of things in preparation for the role. So he was, unlike most Hollywood actors, actually very prepared to be doing realistic gunplay. That being said, as much as I enjoy the gunplay in this movie, no movie is without sin, as CinemaSin says. So let's go ahead and dive into a couple of things. All right, so in this scene, we get the infamous pistol fired into the pillow trick that's in a lot of gunplay. Not sure if that means that this is technically an unregistered suppressor now. This pillow now has to be registered and submitted under the NFA as a suppressor. But this is a movie full of assassins, so I really don't think that matters. Now, for those of you who have no clue what I just said, suppressors are actually registered in the United States, at least, under the National Firearms Act. So what you actually have to do to own one is pay a $200 tax stamp and submit a form into the ATF. Make sure your background check clears and everything like that. It takes a couple of months, depending on the wait times. Sometimes as high as like 9 to 10 months. But basically, it's an extra process to go along. And you really don't want to have a suppressor without the tax stamp because that's how you get your dog shot. And this is John Wick, so really doesn't lead to very good things. Okay, so here we have a scene where John is absolutely going to town with a AR-15 style rifle. And this is the one time, and I wouldn't have caught it, and frankly, I blame the sound engineers or the editor for this because this wouldn't have been an issue if they had caught it, but John fires more than 30 rounds out of a 30-round magazine, which is the infamous Hollywood cliche, absolute just screw up that happens in a lot of gunplay. Is you'll have an actor that has an infinite magazine, so you'll fire 50, 60 rounds out of a 30-round magazine. Some movies are really bad about it. This movie was insanely good about it, throwing in reloads everywhere, very realistic. I cannot preach about how awesome the gunplay was in this movie compared to other Hollywood movies, so don't want to be ragging on this movie, but they did screw up that one bit, so yeah, they thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. Also in this same scene, when John does a reload, you can actually see when he's reloading that AR-15, the magazine is full of crimped case 5.56 or 2.23 rounds, which means these are blanks. So if he's trying to ambush a couple of vehicles with a full auto AR with blanks, it's not going to go super well for him. Maybe that's why he brings out the KSG later. Another thing I get the opportunity to address here that was a big thing in the Guns of the MCU video that we did Some people seem to think that AR-15s can't be full auto. Apparently me as a gun builder, I am part of an anti-gun agenda by calling some fully automatic AR-15 looking rifles AR-15s and not M4s. Let me let you in on a little secret. AR-15s can be and are quite often converted to full auto by law enforcement and other agencies. Becoming full auto does not make it an M4. The M4 is just a military designation for another AR-15 platform rifle. AR-15 is broadly addressing the platform. It's the same mechanics, all the parts are interchangeable, it's the same rough platform of gun. M4 is just a military designation of it. Yes, I'm sure you really owned your aunt in that Facebook debate by pointing out that an AR-15 isn't military style. Yes, that is really what's going to win people over. It's nomenclature, guys. It's very much the same thing, so I'm on your side, I promise. Just let's please use good arguments. Another really awesome scene from this movie is happening, I guess here, is when John Wick is chasing Theon Greyjoy through a nightclub and just absolutely wrecking all of the guards. I just enjoy the scene, and I kind of want to just watch it play there, because this was a fantastic, this is when it really started heating up with the dubstep and the gunplay and everything like that. Really, really excellent scene. If you want to see, if you want to know how to do realistic handgun fighting right, study this movie, because this is way better than the you guys have been putting out for a while. Alright, so now we're going to move on. Jesus Christ. I don't know how John Wick kills people like this. Seriously. There we go. Much better. I can see you now. I missed you. Moving on to John Wick 2. Now, this movie came out a few years later. Also really good, but I actually do have a couple legitimate gripes about this movie, because this I don't know about you guys, but this movie kind of felt like it moved from the kind of more hyper-realistic, gritty, realistic movie of the first, and moved more toward like the comic book roots, I guess, that John Wick had. And there's a couple of scenes that are clearly done like artistically, very Tarantino-style violence that was cool to watch, but as a gun guy, it made me kind of cry a little bit. All right, and here we have John, for whatever reason, deciding to do a one-handed press check. I don't know why he did that at this particular moment, but he pulled a full Alexandra on us. All right, so we're kind of skipping ahead a little bit. I think this is toward the end of the movie. We have these security guards are sweeping the building looking for John Wick, and one of them thinks it's a good idea to take on the world's deadliest assassin without a rear sight on his rifle. It is close quarters, but that is typically bad advice. Okay, here we have a scene that actually, this took me out of the moment in the theater. This is where Common is fighting Keanu Reeves in a subway station, I believe it is, and they're both using suppressed handguns, and they're trying to act like nothing's happening, so they're just kind of shooting them off their shoulders at each other from a good little distance away, and for whatever reason, they are pinpoint accurate with these things, and somehow a bunch of civilians don't die, but they're shooting a couple rounds at a time, and for whatever reason, a pillar keeps getting in the way and stopping the rounds. So I have two qualms with this. One can be explained by artistic, whatever, is why would you wait your turn to shoot into a pillar and not hit the other guy? I mean, this is like, you would have to work really hard just to do this on purpose. The other problem I have is this is kind of that Hollywood stereotype that suppressors are actually that quiet. Suppressors do actually bring firearms, typically, into the range where you're not exposing yourself to hearing damage, or at least not that much of it. Not nearly as much as an unsuppressed gunshot. What they don't do is make your gun completely silent. Honestly, if you were just cycling that gun the way a round would cycle it with absolutely no gunshot at all, you would still probably raise some eyebrows. Nobody around seems to realize there's a gunfight happening in the middle of a subway station. I know those are loud. They're not that loud. If you've been around suppressors for a while, you know what I'm talking about. You can still hear that stuff from a pretty good distance away. And that brings us to the end of John Wick 1 and 2, into John Wick 3. I promise there would be no spoilers for this. You should really go watch the movie. I will say one thing. At least Braun just got his f***ing castle. It's not really a spoiler, but if you see the movie and you haven't yet, you'll know what I mean. So I guess that just about wraps up everything. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more stuff like it, go ahead and subscribe, and make sure you leave down in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like. If you want to see more of the gunplay, if you want to see more jokes, if you want to see more of the guns listed, that sort of thing, just let us know. And if you have suggestions for other movies or TV shows, I know a couple of you guys were suggesting like the Punisher show, and God, some of you guys were suggesting The Walking Dead. Guys, I'm not that brave. I would probably have an aneurysm sitting through like season 4 again. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for staying with us to this point. And like I said, if you have any suggestions, leave them down in the comments. I will see you sexy motherfuckers in the next video. Thanks a lot, guys. And in honor of John Wick 3, we're going to be doing today the This happens more than you think. John is going to absolute town. Let me go back and say that in a way that's not super fucked up.